I drag some dust up my arm and disintegrate everything in the room. And burn what's left.
Liam O'Brien, the amazing voice behind Illidan Stormrage, Gaara, and most notably for me, Vax and the tragic Caleb Widogast. Not only is Liam O'Brien an amazing voice actor, he's also the reason Critical Role exists today. Little known fact, the first session of Critical Role was held for Liam's birthday. What was supposed to be a one-shot, just in between voice actors and colleagues, merged and became something a little bigger, let's call it. Spoilers of Critical Role Campaign 2 ahead, so be careful with that. Caleb is a deeply tragic character with a few moments of light, and Liam takes us brilliantly through this journey of self-acceptance. How did Liam manage to create such a deep character with such intensity? Number 1. Planning your character. Now that campaign 2 is over, we know that Caleb had a plan, and Liam planned it since the very beginning.
The plan I have gone over in my mind every night for years, knowing it would work. Of course it will work. I will go back. I will walk up in the guise of a young Bren Aldrich Amandrude. Not long after I left them, I will re-enter my home and explain it to them. I will dump 2 bodies out of the amber on my neck and leave them on the floor. I will set illusion behind us as we leave and wait from afar and watch invisibly as 3 children walk up to the house and set it ablaze. And hear the screams of my parents who are no longer in that building. And everything will stay as it was. And I will take them to Taldore. And I will tell them, take these gems, start a life here, wait for me. And in a little less than 2 decades, start coming to this square once a week, every week, and eventually you will find me there. Of course it would work.
When you create a character as profound as Liam did with Caleb, a few things will happen. First of all, it's going to be easier for the DM to include your backstory in the story itself, like we saw with Tranticaton, the Cerberus Assembly, and the whole shebang. Due to the fact that your backstory is richer, there is more to pull from. Second, it becomes easier to roleplay your character, because now you know the motivations of your character, you know what drives them, what scares them, and this, thanks to human empathy, allows us to relate to the character and express it in a more real way. After all, nobody knows your character better than you do. 2. A charismatic performance. Now, let's remember that Liam is a professional voice actor. That's his job, that's his craft. So of course he's gonna be very good at it. But you can see when he talks how he commands the attention of the room on himself. This is due to multiple factors, one of them being that Critical Role is still a business, so they need to make the show as enjoyable as possible for the viewers. So of course, the other players are going to be quiet when other players are talking, to let the roleplay shine through, which allows the experience to be more enjoyable. Another reason for that is that the crew is very good at giving other characters spotlight. They start conversations with each other, which can be deep and meaningful, something that is harder to achieve in a home game, let alone with 7 players.
I have so much more work to do. Trying to be the man you wanted me to be. I still hope to. And if I'm very lucky, I will see you on the other side.
Notice how, as soon as he spoke, the attention was shifted towards him. Now, keep in mind, it's not always the case, and Liam does a great job at playing a shyer type of character since Caleb's charisma is not that high, unlike Fjord, for example, who's the face of the party. But one thing that he does is when he speaks, notably about his past, you can feel the weight and impact of each word as it comes out of his mouth. It's really quite something. You feel crushed, you feel the sadness that's coming out of each and every single word. It's quite the performance. It gives the impression that he's on the brink of breaking. The tears are about to fall. Madness, rage, all engulfed together. Now, he is a voice actor by trade, so of course he's going to be able to craft a wonderful voice which conveys all those emotions. But something that we can take away for our own games is not to be afraid to express the whole range of human emotions through our character, showing vulnerability, for example, for our characters and so on. This makes them feel more human. In addition, another thing that Liam does, which really brings the character to life, is the Zemnian accent, which is a form of German accent which has been simplified in a way where it's easier to understand for English speakers, and it really gives this unique tone to the character, which really helps anchor him into reality. An accent is indeed a very simple way to spruce up your character and make them feel more real. According to his Wikipedia page, Liam only plays characters which are insane or evil geniuses. Caleb is not quite insane, but definitely a very broken man, so I would say that fits the bill. I could make an entire video explaining how Liam is able to craft such an enthralling performance. If you'd like to see such a video, let me know in the comments below. Subscribe while you're at it, and if you already did so, I love you. And let's move on. Holding back information. I feel like this is a very important point that doesn't get talked about very often. I think a mistake that tends to be done by players is to craft an epic backstory, and because it's so great and you're so excited to share it, as soon as you get the opportunity, you spill all the beans and explain everything about your character. How they were the son of a war chieftain, but didn't like the war, and so they ran away to join an adventuring party and kill monsters instead. Yeah, as Sam said, it's hard to play D&D and not kill anything.
But it turns out, like, when you play D&D for a while, you kill a lot of people. And so it got harder and harder to be like, I'm the mother who wants to protect all children and value parenting and stuff, because like you're just killing people nonstop.
When the other players learn everything that there is to know about your characters in the first few sessions, it kind of kills the intrigue. There is nothing new to discover. What they might have discovered was great, but there's no more of it. So holding back information can be a good idea in that sense. For example, when you play a video game for the first time, you're taken through this experience, this story, this adventure. Everything is new and exciting. You're amazed by everything, right? And when you replay that game for the second time, you never get that first experience back. You may still enjoy the game for the mechanics that it offers and the story that you know is good, but it's never going to be quite as impactful as the first time you discover it. On the other hand of that, is characters that are so dark and edgy that nobody can understand them, and their story is so sad and nothing can be said about it, and it's so dark and you'll never understand. That's not exactly great either, because there's only so much time before brooding in a corner becomes boring and cliché, and people will get bored of not getting any information. I think Liam, through Caleb, rides the fine line in between those two to create a character that is really unique. He pieces out information from the very beginning when we see his aversion to fire despite being able to cast fire spells. But yet, there's some things about him that we never learn until the very last session. From very early on, we catch on that something is off with him. The first time he lights an enemy ablaze and falls completely catatonic. Especially Nott, as she is his best friend at the time, notices that something is off. And us, the audience, as well.
Are you okay, Caleb? You went a little quiet there for a little while.
Is that your first time killing something? Or somebody?
He was burned alive in front of me.
Yeah, you did that, though.
I am well aware that I killed that person. I have nothing else to say. Why is everyone looking at me?
Well, we were just, yeah,
I'm concerned.
we were worried. Kind of went into like a state, just making sure you were all right.
I'm okay.
All right, yeah.
It was terribly grisly. His hair was on fire and he burned horribly. Maybe it went a little further than I anticipated. I have killed people before in defense. Yeah. But not like that.
I love that particular roleplay aspect, because Liam chose something that was deliberately bad for the character, something that would render him catatonic in combat, which, as you can imagine, is not a great option, simply to emphasize the roleplay value of his character and make the character feel all that more real, all that more traumatized. Talk about dedication to a character. The fact that he only talks about his history through breadcrumbs and pieces of information really keeps us on our toes until the very end of the show. We're really hungry for more information, and that makes the character more interesting. I mean, bloody hell, we learned at the very end, the very last session, that all this ink and parchment that he was collecting was not only for his spells, but also to write letters to his dead parents, because in his mind he was always going to see them and be able to tell them everything that had happened to him. Talk about playing the long game.
Shortly after returning home from Eiselcross, I go to Blumenthal for the first time. And I know where the town cemetery is, and I find Una and Leofric. And sit down on the ground before them. And I unsnap the book harness on the left and take out the book of letters that I have been writing to them since I woke up, with the intention of putting in their hands. And I hold the book, and I cast teleport and send it into the earth between them.
Going with the flow. Another great thing that Liam did with Caleb is his ability to improvise new information as the world was interacting with the character. For example, first time they met Jester. Jester told Caleb that he kinda stank. Was not planned. Liam didn't have in mind that his character was going to be stinky, but he realized that that would totally make sense with his backstory and just ran with it. Another thing that was quite unexpected, and we learn at the end, is the dancing with Jester at the ball, where Liam decided that it makes sense for Caleb to be able to dance. Yeah, I would be able to dance. It added a nice touch of levity to the character and made the story all that much more enjoyable. I feel like I'm talking about Jester a lot, but the fact that Caleb fell for Jester. I mean, who wouldn't fall in love with that cupcake? To be fair, but still, he says it himself at the end. Caleb was a character that was not supposed to have any love interest. Then an adorable cupcake appears and half the Mighty Nein falls in love with her, so, you know, makes sense. Jester managed to break through to him as she was a very kind soul, something he had not encountered previously. So as you can see, embracing the unexpected can really help build a very strong character. If you want to know what Matt Mercer did in Exandria Unlimited, well, you can click here. If you haven't subscribed yet and want to do so, click here. If you're already subscribed, I love you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.